who is this man? Golly! He can't sing. I mean, like, what is this? Golly! This is ridiculous. They got the American flag and all these other flags. Yeah, God bless you too. Get off the stage. Please get off the stage. Get off. Put the game back on. I can't stand this. Tell me that. I mean, what in the world is all this foolishness? Thank you. Get off the stage, please. Jesus.
Well, judging from that response, I would say Bad Bunny didn't actually go over with the crowd as well as I think they had hoped. And I do mean they had hoped and I guess banked on in a lot of ways, because my God, I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to the reactions, but how is it that you have BS Now, CNN, and Harry Sisson, who, the little feminine online influencer that is always so hardline Democrat. How is he giving a shit about football at all? And chiming in on X about how this was an excellent show by Bad Bunny. What a wonderful halftime performance. Like, motherfucker, what the hell? Have you ever even watched football for 1 second, let alone the halftime show, and gone and rushed to comment about it any other time in your life? Or is this just because, yay, multiculturalism, yay, look, he's Spanish, he's singing in Spanish, and that's great, that must mean it's good. It's so stupid. It's just, oh man. That's why, like, I listen to a lot of Japanese metal, actually, and I listen to a ton of. I can't help it. I love freaking K-pop. I love Eurobeat. I love all that goofy stuff, and so a lot of them are half English and half other stuff. So, depending on what country it's in, it could be all kinds of a mix. But when you are doing the Super Bowl in the United States for an American audience, and even if you're promoting multiculturalism, which is stupid for a Super Bowl event in the first place, but even if you're doing that, why in the hell are you going to pick a guy who's going to do basically all his songs in Spanish? I mean, it goes back, I swear, this is the self-fulfilling prophecy of the way things go now, because of how insanely satirical everything is. It just might as well have been something that actually happened. If there's anybody out there that's as nerdy as I am that remembers a episode of Married with Children called Driving Mr. Boondy. It's a classic, but he's Al Bundy's going to the DMV to take his driver's license test. At some point, he realized he didn't have his license, or it expired or something like. I can't even remember, but I do remember. The reason it's called Mr. Boondy is because there's the ongoing joke in the show of them being called something other than, but it was usually Boondy was the way they would pronounce it, and he'd have to correct them. But the guy at the DMV counter, he goes, Al Bundy, and he comes up, he goes, that's Bundy. Sorry. Anyway, Mr. Boondy. It almost is like a Monty Python sketch up until that point, but then he asked for, he said he needs a written test, and what language do you speak? And this is back in the era where that was kind of funny in and of itself. So there's the typical kind of laugh track over it, and Al looks confused, and he says, "Speak the same language as everybody else in this country," and the guy goes, "No, Spanish." And then he goes, "No, no, you fool! I speak American." He doesn't even say English. He says American. He's like, "American, American." The guy has like this hint of a British accent almost, which is even funnier. But um, he pulls out this huge stack. He's looking through, looking through, looking through. He finally finds this dusty old piece of paper. He's like, "Oh, I hope you enjoyed driving tractors," and he puts it down. But the point is that I mean, this was in the early '90s, and it was already an ongoing joke that if you go to the DMV and you're trying to get your driver's license, that they're going to have more Spanish-speaking tests than American. Oh man. Anyway, and then now here we are in 2026, and we have Bad Bunny, who's doing the Super Bowl and the halftime show, and we have a guy who is, I mean, it's funny because like I'm pretty sure most people that watch the Super Bowl that aren't there to watch, their political opinions get, sort of jacked off in front of them so they can have an orgasm and be super excited about it. But it's like everybody else that was there just to watch the game and was, doesn't know. I heard the most common reaction was, I don't really know who Bad Bunny is. So once again, maybe he is the most big pop star in the charts, right? And whatever. It doesn't reflect American culture. It sure as hell doesn't reflect the, sports fan culture. And so maybe you're talking about two different demographics here. That's just throwing it off the top of my head. But most importantly, um, just the like I said, yeah, the turning point response was brilliant. They ended up getting like I saw at last count the total number of people that came in, not concurrent. I think they had a total. It was like at one point the highest peak it reached concurrent viewers was over 10 million. Over 10 million concurrent views live on the multiple platforms. It's fair across everywhere they streamed it. Um, but total people who have watched it up until now, when they were last counting, I saw it was up to above 21 million views. That is ridiculous. That is absolutely insane. And to get numbers to compete with the Super Bowl, you would obviously have to completely um, be just like knocking it out of the park with the performance. And they absolutely did because, some people are just doing it in advance. I think other people probably heard about it when they realized like, oh, this sucks. Is there anything else on? But it's just it made one hell of a statement. And then to have all the people go and clean up, like I think the worst one was Joe Scarborough coming in this morning and basically like coming up with the most absolutely pathetic, whiny excuses for how like this was a performance that should have been embraced for catering to the market and what they want. It's like, which market, dumbass? But just all just a side note, and I'm sorry, but just to kind of round off the whole package, it was even worse when you, like I said, you get to the people and they're flat out just accusing people of being racist for not wanting to watch the halftime. I'm going like, since when was this a suddenly going from the sporting event that Americans love to watch every year as a pastime to I mean, yeah, when the BLM stuff was going on and they had to have all their propaganda all over the freaking field, that was one thing. But now it's like, now it's not just, we need to show everybody how virtuous we are. Now, it's, if you don't take part and don't like our virtue signaling crap, then you're automatically racist if you aren't interested in it. If you'd rather watch Kid Rock than Bad Bunny, then you're suddenly an insurrectionist. I'm sure. Never mind what they're doing, but it was insane. Side note: the fact that I thought for sure Kid Rock was gonna play American Badass, and instead of he played Ball with the Ball. I mean, maybe he did play American Badass, but all the footage came back with Ball with the Ball, and I was like, Oh, he's going all the way back to freaking the intro album, man. Jeez. Let's hear Cowboy. Let's hear some of the stuff like Only God Knows Why. Let's hear all of it. Man, that was back in the day when I loved Kid Rock, man. And I mean, I love the guy. I like a lot of his music. I think American Badass freaking, was a, probably the peak album, but the first album was freaking awesome. I had a lot of friends that made fun of me, but I didn't care. I freaking loved it. Anyway, so that's just I just had to put in a few words about that because to be honest, it was just jarring as hell to see I anticipated the sort of the kind of response from people that were really confused and like, what's going on here? What I didn't expect was this extremely harsh and sharp defense of it from people who clearly have no interest in sports or football or um, probably have no interest in Bad Bunny whatsoever. Probably have no interest in like pop music or anything else. They just are like, this is what was picked because the NFL said it was good. You need to watch it and enjoy that. And I remember the days when it was all about, oh, I just watched the commercials. It's like, okay, yeah, so you are just there to laugh at horrible, bad jokes and stupid takes that are meant to sell you a product. Okay, cool. Capitalism in action. Nothing wrong with that, but you actually got to do something good to make it work. Now it's just like always this fourth wall breaking, cynical, ridiculous message that has all these undertones of liberal ideology weaved into it. It's just it's nothing at all like it should be, but that's how it goes. Anyway, so on to today, and sorry for being so late. I had a friend who really, really needed a favor desperately, and I was like, okay, all right, I'll try and make something work out, and I did. But my ability to edit everything took a little bit longer than I anticipated, unfortunately. So that was kind of the unfortunate side effect of all of it. But this is actually kind of more of a, as I got everything ready, I realized this is kind of more a um, sort of, how do I put it, like a catalyst episode for, well, not catalyst episode, but a calm before the storm episode, I guess, because we're only going to hint on some of the subjects today, um, but when I go into some of them the next time, oh geez, I'm really gonna have to I'm really gonna have to ratchet up some of the, because I told you guys I was gonna try and, after the last couple episodes that were really intense, like I'm sorry, righteous fury. I was pretty frustrated. It was just getting to a point where I just could not stand the how do I put it? Like, I don't know, the constant like just misdirection that was constantly being used by media, and even if they were right-wing media, they were they were quick to point out what was going on that was messed up, but they weren't by any means, and I think now, honestly, in retrospect, looking at what I've seen now and then comparing it to what is being talked about now, I think it's safe to say that it may have been simply because no one's been really able to actually get in there to report on any of this. Um, because the Minnesota is bad. Oh, Minnesota is really bad, you guys. It is it is in a absolute anarchy state. I am stunned by what has been allowed to happen there, and that's what I'm gonna touch on a little bit later. But man, I never would have I never would have guessed things going this far, and it being just kind of like not even old news, not even news that's been tried to be covered up for, just straight up ignored almost entirely, except for the residents of Minnesota, and the only ones that are going to be able to make any contact are the ones that are all anti-ice and all freaking totally um, unhinged and absolute lunatics. But we'll get to that second because the first I'm going to go over What was there's two big things I was going to talk about. The first one was yeah. Sorry. So it's partly about Hakeem Jeffries in particular, because you can see as we're about to get into midterm season, and you can see we're starting to get to the point where their platforms are starting to kind of drizzle out in a sort of slow drip feed that the platforms they're all going to be standing on. They're starting to sort of hint at what they're going to do and how they're going to present it, and a little bit. And of course, that means at some point or at some level, it's not just the candidates on their own individual races, but the parties as a whole. Kind of coming out in mass and trying to support their candidates, and there's not hasn't been a primary in a lot of the cases that are up for potentially taking their positions in the executive, but the mm, the way that because this just happens to be right at the time after there's two things that happen. First, this is right around the time of the appropriations fight, and I think luckily, they're not holding up all of government really this time, because they basically they're not even really holding up any of government, but I'll get to that in a second. They're not even really holding up much government because they agreed on everything except for Department of Homeland Security funding. And I'll just put it frank right from the start. The demands from Democrats for what they want in this uh, package for the appropriations bill, none of it's happening. Maybe maybe some of it, like they do want body cams, although that will never be what they really want, because it never is something that actually implicates any of the not implicates, but confirms any accusations they always are hurling to be true. That was what happened on the national level when cops were demanding, we want cops to wear body cams so that they can document everything they do during the day. And if you have nothing to hide, then if there's no racism running rampant in the police, then we'll see it on body cam. And sure enough, we saw it on body cam, and then that wasn't enough for them. They had to come up with all these other reasons why racist. And like I've been talking about before, that's why they will take the camera of a bystander who was not standing at an angle that was able to be really visible to a degree that you could see very clearly what was happening. Um, you could see enough that it looked like something specific was happening, but you couldn't tell for sure. And so Derek Chauvin gets to become the fall guy for the police department, because he dared to use a technique that they've taught and used in the Minneapolis police department for you know decades and decades, and it's never had any effect on anybody except for a guy who just so happened to be uh, high on off his ass on a shit ton of fentanyl. But yeah, it's time for, once again, the body cam argument. So now they want ICE to wear body cams, and it's going to be as ridiculously unuseful as it was to them. It's going to be completely unuseful. Now, to people who are actually demanding accountability when it's necessary, and not just because they have a vendetta or hatred for police or ICE, we're probably going to be vindicated because, but then again, when you can see footage of Renee Good, and it's obvious to anybody with eyes that from the camera of the officer who was hit by the car, that he indeed got hit by the car. And yet they want to use all these other people's cameras no, he didn't really get hit. Oh, he wasn't really hit. I heard people saying all the time, like, his his he didn't even not get knocked to the ground. How did he get hit by a car? I'm sitting there thinking, well, I've seen somebody get hit by a car who ended up getting hit so hard he kind of was slammed to the hood of the car, and then when he scooted off, he hit the floor with his feet and stood up, and he never got knocked down. I mean, so technically, I guess if we're being honest here, that wasn't a guy getting knocked down. I'd still say that's getting hit by the car. Um, but once again, this isn't anything they really care about. What they really care about is just to keep demonizing ICE. That's it. It has nothing to do with any. I mean, if you want to be honest about what they really want, it's just to flat out abolish ICE. Period. Render ICE completely useless and have them not be able to enforce deportations or to enforce any kind of immigration law anywhere. That's really what they want more than anything. Unfortunately, most of the people in the country do want people to be deported if they are even actually a majority want them deported if they've only just entered the country illegally, let alone if they entered the country illegally and then did horrendous shit like support sex trafficking of children or violently sexually assault women and murder mothers, murders college students, murder. I mean, there's so many sick people, and that's what I always go back to. Remember what all of this, all the fights in Congress, all the people in Minnesota, everybody who's raising this issue like crazy. What are they doing it for? It's not their neighbors. It's not Minnesotans standing up for each other. They're not Minnesotans. They're not Americans. They're illegal aliens. They're not here. They're not here by anybody's real, rationale that because they deserve to be here, except for a guy with dementia and Secretary Mayorkas who, basically wanted the country to be. If you ever see that video where Biden's talking about how the country's going to be minority white within a couple generations or whatever, and he's sitting right next to Mayorkas while he's saying that, and you just see the guy have this look of happiness and pride on his face that my president, he is exactly right. That is why he's such a great, he's got this look on his face that's like, I am so happy we have this wonderful leader. Not like that last guy who was just throwing everybody out. This is great. This is great. It's just, it's sick. Anyway, but onto the whole thing with the funding. So there's been video after video that's been coming out on social media. Hakeem Jeffries is coming out like a tough guy. And I don't know if you guys have ever recognized this. If you ever watch Hakeem Jeffries speak, I've said this before, I think, but if I haven't, this will be the first time you hear it, but it's absolutely true. The guy has no charisma, no personality, no leadership skills, no public speaking voice, no presence, nothing is exceptional about the guy. He's a complete fucking dunce. Like there's nothing about him that's it. Even even as a hint of leadership qualities, and yet they prop this guy out there. Why? Well, he sure as hell listens to Pelosi and Democrat leadership just perfect. He's on the ball when it comes to that aspect, and that's really all they care about anyway. So, okay, great. He'll carry out that agenda flawlessly, I'm sure. So, what has he been up to lately? Well, he's been sure as hell making a lot of inflammatory statements about President Trump, and why? Well, you see, Trump did the unimaginable. We'll just put it this way: he committed one of the most grave sins ever, because as we discussed last time, and as I'm sticking to, I mean, as long as you have leftists who think it's totally fine to use racist terms to call every agent of ICE that is not white, as long as they will keep using the most racist terms to describe them that they can, I'm sorry, I'm not going to believe anything that you have to say really gives a shit at all about racism, gives a shit at all about actual equal opportunity, anything related to civil rights, anything related to human rights, anything like that. And I'm just going to assume that once again, this is exactly what it's always been about more Democrat Party voters, and that's it. So, what is it he got up in arms about? Well, the couple of seconds of the clip that was put out by the White House of the Obamas, aka paragons of virtue and you know, possibly more angelic than Jesus himself, which was one of the most ridiculous. Because first off, he well, you can hear it for yourself in just a second, but listen to the way he describes this. Um, and then kind of try to keep in the back of your mind that this guy, once again, he's not leading any kind of effort to be like, hey, people in Minnesota, don't attack ICE officers, even if they're minorities, even if they're black, even if they're Hispanic. Don't mistreat them. Don't obstruct justice. And by the way, to those of you out there using uh, what's the word? Offensive terms for minorities and using racial slurs against our uh, officers of color, even in Department of Homeland Security. Uh, that is most certainly not something we need at this time. Can't even say anything like that. Not even a hint, because he doesn't care. There's another one of those things like similar to it's sadistic, but similar to Renee Good and Alex Preddy. This is something they want. They want it for ammunition to prove a point that's non-existent, but it can be twisted and manipulated to make it look like this is true. So, but like, so I didn't get the whole video myself because I honestly was not going to go digging around for that. I didn't want to have to look through a bunch of videos of criticism of all this stuff and yada yada. But the video they're talking about was used by the original creator of the video that was discussing the topic, which was that what was the video? It was about tariffs, and at the very end, he played a video, and this was kind of a video that had been played before, where somebody made a music video. I think it's to "The Lion Sleeps Tonight," um, that has the entire jungle and all the creatures in it, except they're all politicians. They all have different politician faces. And the two Obamas had faces on gorillas. And I think Hakeem Jeffries was on a hyena. Or that might have been, no, that was Zoran Mamdani. But anyway, I think Hakeem might have been on a giraffe. I have no idea why. But anyway, but it was to like put all the politicians in Washington D.C., especially on the left, all on different animals in Africa, and then to have President Trump's face be put over a lion and him come out and roar and set everybody straight. That was the whole video. It wasn't about just the Obamas. It wasn't making the racially racial hate crime or whatever that they're probably going to make it out to be. I guarantee you, under the last administration, they probably would have tried to arrest the guy and put him under an insurrection or something. Like, this is an insurrectionist, and that's probably what they would have done. But so let's kick off this video. This is because that's how it starts, but this is all pretext because the angle they're using now is racism, and this time it's because they've, as the title of the video discusses, uh, they've decided that the SAVE Act is what they're going to attack because we just can't have that go into effect. Oh no, we can't have absolutely voter ID is ridiculous. It's racist. It's Jim Crow 2.0, which I can't believe no one said the famous line, which I was trying to remind them, of course, because I think it's more appropriate. This makes Jim Crow look like Jim Eagle. And I don't know why we haven't heard that again. That was the most important discussion point, I think. And in fact, I think maybe that was the most important thing Joe Biden said while he was in office. But anyway, the clip is just mostly about the objections to the SAVE Act. But once in a while, not once in a while. Actually, before I even say anything else, let's just play the video because the way that they're starting to really, I mean, they're starting to go into that unhinged mode that they get into when they are seeing things that make them nervous and they're getting desperate as hell, and you can tell. It's really it's funny, but it's really starting to get worrisome, especially with some data that's coming out. And I'll just tell you right now, um, this actual episode is kind of setting the table for my point. That's going to be something I'm going to be like, consistently really pounding this as we go through most of this year, because I'm starting to notice um, that, man, this is so like, if it's worse than I thought in every way possible, and if the Democrats are able to claim even the House, which is going to be a catastrophe, all on all in and of itself, that's already huge, terrible news. If they get the Senate and the House, we're doomed. But I mean, yeah, if they keep the same, kinds of splits they have right now, the House is going to be in big trouble as well, because when you have a one vote majority, the slimmest possible majority in the House, which that was the Senate, last time around, but um, in the House, if you have, like, we're talking about hundreds, a couple hundred people, and uh, I'm just looking at the is looking at the way they handle it. I'm like, what is it? Well, there's only one reason why. Because they don't care if they have to lie, manipulate, twist facts, use something that's not backed up by information, not confirmed by anybody with any kind of uh, record for telling the truth, not anything like that. Just random facts spouted out about, not even facts, random bits of propaganda spouted out to make you think that you are going to doom the country if you don't vote against this evil party and their regime. And then on the flip side, there's the much more important reason, which is what we'll be highlighting later on this week. But maybe people are not looking at the parties. Maybe they're not looking at the uh, uh, actual labels that have been put on them. But maybe they're worried a little bit more about um, who is going to be able to actually deliver um, on a on a funding package and a well, let's just get this started. Let's just get this started. I think you'll get the idea when we first get started. But this is just, it's going to get worse. It's just only going to get worse from here. So me and everybody else, we better prepare for it. But we also had better come to grips with what we're looking at, the radical nature that these people have fully embraced at this point. There's no question. There's no question at all anymore that it's not just something they're encouraging. It's not just something that they are doing uh, as a measure that is extreme because they think they need to meet the moment. This is them literally on camera losing their minds, growing more and more unhinged, and every time they hear something that doesn't favor Democrats even more, um, they just stop and go ballistic. Um, it's how do you hmm, anyway. Anyway, so let's go ahead and start this clip, because this is like I said, this is a good starting point. So, oh wait, oops, wrong button. It's here we go. That's what I need. All right. Now, oh, and by the way, later on this week I'll also be doing a quick look into the Senate hearing for Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, who really, oh man, he uh, he made he made Pocahontas look like a real freaking idiot, like she usually has been. But it's really disheartening in this case. But anyway, let's let me find it. Um, hmm, I think this is it. Yeah, this should be it. Uh, oh, wait, is it? No, no, this isn't it. This is from last. Um, okay. Hmm. I thought I remembered the names for all these. They're here somewhere for sure, but um, hmm, hmm. My man. Okay, what did I name it? What did I name it? No. Hmm. God damn, that is that. Okay. PN. Yeah. Hmm. Man, come on. Hmm. It was weird when I was going through videos today on YouTube because I noticed that. Uh, oh wait, who's here? Somebody here? Oh no. Thank you guys for showing up. By the way, very much appreciated. If I could find this damn clip, it would be much better. I'm sure. Okay. Senator. I wish we could hear Senator Danadar talk some more about what is wrong with ICE, but I interestingly thought I would hear something. Well, I didn't think much about how good it would be, other than maybe it'd be kind of embarrassing. But of all people, what's his name? Uh, Senator Moskowitz, Jared Moskowitz. Mr. Look, I'm a funny clown on the left. He was on PBD's podcast the other day, and he went on to, throw these insults at Schumer and talk about how he was a terrible chairman. It's like, okay, think what you want about him. And he throws this joke. He made a joke about me being short. He's like, that's not exactly what happened. And I was trying to make my point. What happened was you came in that day wearing a Putin mask because you thought it would be a hilarious troll to come into Congress wearing a mask looking like Putin. And then, anyway, but he's wearing this blue suit and a Putin mask. And by the time they get to hearing, I think they made him take the mask off. But he still got his blue suit on, and he's just pushing the hell out of James Comer so much. Here we go. Here's the one I was looking for. Anyway, he starts talking so much shit on James Comer, he finally has to respond. And since I guess Jared Moskowitz is really short, he said, "You're like a little Smurf." And it's because of the blue suit, and he's really short. And it was actually a really good joke. You just don't want to say what it was actually about because it is a good joke. So, I mean, if you know anything about, something as obscure and old as the Smurfs, then, but of course, James Comer would be the one to use that as a joke. But anyway, I digress. Anyway, here's the beacon of light himself, speaker. Uh, oh wait, is this it? Yeah, because this is. Oh yeah, because it's named after the episode. Okay, Jim Crow 2.0. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Oh, what I love too, you'll hear this all the time now. This they want to nationalize elections, sort of thing. Like kind of like what the Democrats wanted to do so bad during COVID, and the thing that was so controversial that it broke a number of the election rules for like on a national level, but they just had to do it that way because it was a pandemic and everyone needed to be able to vote. And they needed to be able to vote twice, and they needed to be able to vote for their dead relatives and everything else. So anyway, it's just hilarious, like with this talking about the points they talk about, and um, they want to have they want to federalize all elections. You guys want to federalize everything. Like, what are you talking about? That's your shtick. They want to have ID presented in every state, and they want that to be one of the mandatory laws for every state. One thing, not oh well, there has to be drop boxes in this area, that area. There, we have to have mail-in ballots. We have to have ballot harvesting. We have to have, like, it's a little different, but potato, potato. Uh, election security, schmelection schmecurity. I don't even know what to say on that. It's just, how about the pot calling the kettle black on this one? Oh, whoops, did I say black? Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. That was racist. Jeez. They always use that. They always use that. They always use the most unreasonable idea too. It's just it's blatant propaganda every time. Like a birth certificate, or like like a passport, or ID, driver's license, that if you're driving around the country you should fucking have, don't you think? Anyway, keep going, dumb broad. There she goes. Hey, she has to admit it. I want to see it. Look at his face. He oh, that, that, that oh yeah. And look who's next. Look who's next. Oh, Republicans did. Non-existent fraud. Because once again, according to this jackass, um, it was the most free and fair election in the history of the country. We have no way to prove that, but it certainly was. And in the conditions that would have been the most insecure, it was still the most free and fair election. And how about that? Yeah, yeah. You're you're so trustworthy. Voter suppression. Yeah. There you go. See. There he goes. There he goes. He just wants to stick to birth certificate or passport. And that guy even started with the ID thing, and he's like, he brings up and watch the examples he brings up. It's always this. It's like the argument for you know what if someone's raped or the victim of incest, and should they be forced to have the child? I don't believe so. I personally don't believe so. But that is basically a virtually non-existent argument in terms of how frequently it shows up, right? The right has consistently said, okay, if we make exceptions for those two things, and I'm not even at that point. I think that the the policies that have been enacted in some of the right wing states so far, with limits maybe 10 to 12 weeks, I think that's totally reasonable. I think that's a great point to be at if we're going forward. It's fairly balanced. It's not as it's not seriously as traumatic as it could be. It's still a terrible thing. Just really quick aside. When I was in high school, one of my favorite bands was Ben Folds Five, and there's a song that was really popular at the time. It's called "Brick." If you ever have a chance to listen to it, I would highly recommend you do, because it's a great track. But the song is essentially about a guy and his girlfriend who have to go in the day after Christmas for an abortion. They don't describe the circumstances, but the song is so somber, and it's so, like, honestly, it's so depressing, and it's presented in an absolutely super mature way. And even back then, when I was left leaning, I always thought the subject in that way is this thing that's devastating to go through. I never would have guessed in a million years we'd have people out there celebrating it, like celebrating the concept as if it was something to be proud of. I never would have ever guessed that. And the whole concept of, even, like in a Ben Folds Five song, about the trauma that leads to relationship troubles and ends in a split, is a serious uh, side effect for so many people who have to go through the procedure, or decide to go through the procedure thinking that it's the best idea, and then recognize what a huge mistake it was later. And it's like, that's why I'm for it to an extent, but with some sort of limitations, and them be discussed at great length before you make any decision either way. But this whole concept in the first place, and this is what I mean by the point I was bringing up is just that, like, they always have to use stuff like that to get hit through to the people who are watching just a discussion like this between two leftists. We're on ABC with Adam Schiff talking about the voter suppression that would take place from the Save Act. It's always the most extreme example, no matter what they're talking about, and it's pathetic. So anyway, that's why, when it comes to Democrats, they can't defend any position in a way that's realistic and reasonable. They always have to use ad hominem. They always have to use what's the word, hyperbole, and they just have to make it sound like it's something it's totally not, to justify this ridiculous position. We don't want voter ID, but we want secure election. No, you don't. You don't want either one. Anyway, keep going, you hack piece of shit. There he goes. Look at them keep going. I'm surprised he pushed this hard. That one's a hard one for them to explain. One more. I'm sorry, I keep interrupting, but one more thing. Um, Aside from the fact that I still am shocked at how racist the idea is that minorities and black people and anybody anybody from poor neighborhoods and poor background. I still I can't believe that they use this, but if they insist on keep on if they insist to keep on using it to use as an excuse why this is horrible legislation, because it disenfranchises voters who maybe find it difficult to have an ID. First of all, um, what degree of difficult are we talking about? Are we talking about difficulty, driving to a DMV? Or are we talking about difficulty like hiking in the snow for 20 minutes to get to a town that might have a small little little DMV in it that is not always open? Like, what kind of degree of talk? No, we're talking about people in big, large blue district cities, Democrat cities, with usually public transportation that's definitely by far capable of making it to a place like DMV and back at a pretty fair price. And here's the other thing is that I'm starting to get to a point where, okay, fine, if you're gonna tell me that, I'll believe it. But if that's the brain power of these people, why are they even allowed to vote? If these are people that can't figure out the way to the local DMV, or don't know how to use the internet, or are unable to make it to a public library, or whatever it is, how the hell am I supposed to trust that person to decide the next leader of the country? Why? That is the most ridiculous concept in the world. I'm starting to get of this mindset too. I kind of disagreed with it for a while, but I'm starting to really, really kind of find myself growing more and more in favor of the fact that Vivek talked about this part a lot, that you need some kind of skin in the game to actually feel like your vote really matters, because if you don't, then you're just going to kind of go with whatever, you're told is a good candidate, or you recognize their name from something or whatever. You know nothing about their policies, you know nothing about their political persuasion, you don't know anything about um you probably didn't even watch any of their debates, you're not in their state even in some cases. But anyway, the biggest issue is that with uh, uh, the way that it's being presented, the idea of the right to vote among anybody is so like that's one of the pitfalls of a pure democracy, and why we have a democratic republic. Because sorry, some people just aren't very good at following logic to its understandable solution conclusion. They only want to use the issue as some sort of rallying cry for how virtuous they are. But getting a guy elected who does not understand, uh, well, put it this way, a guy who's elected to office that can't even speak to the press more than once a week at most, and that's on a good week, who spends the majority of the day napping. Um, no, there's far better there's far better candidates than that out there. But this is just so mind blowing that this is what they are willing to do. And I remember seeing so many videos now of people being asked, like, is it hard for you to get a DMV? Anyone who's been there knows precisely what I mean. Um, Sorry, a little primus there. But yeah, like, I think we need to start implementing some more stricter rules around voting, because there was never this concept that everyone should vote. That was never, like, I hate to say it, I don't want to sound like I'm un-American, but it's true. There was never some sort of delusional idea that every citizen should be able to vote. Full stop. No, no sacrifice. No responsibility. Nothing. It's just like, yeah, you can't you can't do that. Like, yes, I can. So, um, yeah. Hmm. Anyway, sorry. Let me go back onto this. I'm sorry. Oh, and so here we go into the video aspect of this. Mm. Oh, 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 shit. Jeez, we lost connection there for a second, guys. I hope. Here, let me make sure everything's all right. Huh. Yeah, it did freeze up. Um, hold on a second. Yeah, we're good now. Okay. Hmm. Um, sorry about that. I guess somehow we lost the connection for a second. Let me check YouTube as well, just to make sure everything's still going fine over there too. Um, yeah, that was strange. Um, hmm, okay. Um, hmm, um, so is everything seems like we're good now, I guess. Everything's running right. Because man, that was weird. That must have been an internet spike on my end. Sorry about that, but I guess we'll continue. Luckily, it looks like OBS is going to notify me when there's a hiccup in the network now, so that's good. But anyway, let's go ahead and go back to this stupid crap. Oh, here we go again. Oh, what was that? Ah, here we go. Well, let's hear him explain this. No, it's because you're fucking retarded to to compare the two. Voting with an ID is Jim Crow 2.0. It makes Jim Crow look like Jim Eagle, remember? Yeah, all those same talking points. And no, nothing you've said makes any sense at all, let alone anything you said about this, unless you see it in the context of what a specific guy named never mind. Anyway, this is just listen to them talk about this. This is insanity. By Democrats. Once again, the most fringe cases of proper ID. You're vicious and nasty. Reviving Jim Crow. No, I no, they're not. Hey, there we go. Thank you, Congresswoman Luna. So that's one sweeping discussion of exactly how to counter the talking points that they've been spewing for days and days and days. But it's just like, you notice how, once again, not one time do they ever bring up the core portion of the issue. Oh no, there was no volume. Oh geez, man, I was way off the ball. I don't know how much of that didn't get through or not. Okay, well, man, I can. You know what I'm gonna do? Give me just a second. I'll let the clip play through. Give me just a second, and I'll be right back. I need to go grab a drink anyway, so I'll let that play through. Then there'll be volume, and I'll be back in about 2 minutes. So give me just a second. I'll start that up. Gosh, I do that. This is like the third time I've done that in the last 5 or 6 shows. I haven't played one all the way through. It's not that long of a clip, at least, but still, jeez. Anyway, since you weren't graced with the wonderful discussion points by, yeah. Oh, you know what? Hold on. This is what I should have had up front for a while now, and this is where I goofed up. I had the window full screen when yeah, and the window full screen when I was trying to figure out what was up with the connection, and I blocked OBS, and then that stopped my levels from being visible. So that was one big problem. Anyway, okay. Let me fix that real quick, and then it should be everything should be good to go at that point. I didn't say what. Okay, here we go. All right. Yeah, now everything's on. So let me refresh this page one more time, and okay, there we go. Okay, all right. Give me just a second. I will be right back, and we'll continue with this. Just so until then, enjoy these insightful senators and congressmen and one sane person on the list, and see the context of everything in this video. You see, you can get the idea of what I'm talking about when they talk about these examples that are freaking ridiculous for the talking points that they're just to make it sound as extreme as possible, which is what kind of the Democrat playbook. But the things they do are just, they're fiery but mostly peaceful. Anyway, so here we go. Check this out, and I will be right back. So until then, enjoy the show. Oh, and let me, yeah.
Turn to a big debate about elections. The president said this week that, or this past week, that he wanted to nationalize elections at the White House and on Capitol Hill. They say that what they mean legislatively is pushing what they call the SAVE Act, which would mandate Americans show proof of citizenship, like a birth certificate, and also potentially more information about their registration to vote. Now, I understand you don't support things like a passport, for example, but requiring basic ID in order to vote is really popular. A Pew poll from a few months ago showed 83% of Americans, including 71% of your fellow Democrats, support requiring an ID to vote. Why are they wrong?
I haven't said that they're wrong.
No, you have said that they're wrong, right? That is exactly what you have said. In fact, leadership within the Democrat Party has not only said that they're wrong, but you're also racist, right? It is racist and Jim Crow and sexist in order to support, if you support voter ID, right? Just making people show voter ID is a form of racist voter suppression.
What about the idea of voter ID, of photo ID being required to vote? Are you in favor of that? Can there be a compromise where Democrats and Republicans put forward photo ID as a requirement for voting?
So, Jonathan, what you've just asked is essentially, Republicans have created distrust in the elections by making claims of non-existent fraud in the elections. And shouldn't we use the distrust they've created in order to enact a voter suppression law, which is the SAVE Act, which would require people to have a birth certificate or passport, documents that millions of Americans don't have. Almost half the country doesn't have a passport, and I don't know where many millions of people would even find a birth certificate. So
but I asked you
phony fraud claims.
But I was asking you a different question. Photo ID. Because as you know, let's show up, there was a recent poll, there's been a lot of polls on this, but in one recent Pew poll, 83% of adults support requiring photo ID to vote. 71% of Democrats favor requiring photo ID. Is that something that you can support? And if not, why not?
It's still going to be something, Jonathan.
Sorry about that.
It's still going to be something that disenfranchises people that don't have the proper real ID, driver's license ID, that don't have the ID necessary to vote, even though they are citizens. This is another way to simply try to suppress the vote.
This disgusting video posted by the so-called president was done intentionally. Donald Trump.
This time, at least on this one, there were subtitles, so maybe
racist and malignant behavior.
Now you
This
can hear
guy
the tone.
is an unhinged bottom feeder. President Obama and Michelle Obama are brilliant, caring, and patriotic Americans. They represent the best of this country. It's time for John Thune, Mike Johnson, and Republicans to denounce this serial fraudster who's sitting at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue pretending to be the President of the United States. Well, first of all, every state is empowered to be able to make the decision on their own, and we completely and totally support that. What Donald Trump wants to do is try to nationalize the election. Translation, steal it, and we're not going to let it happen. We stopped them in terms of their gerrymandering efforts, where they were going to try to redraw congressional maps in red states throughout the nation, not expect Democrats to respond forcefully, and try to rig the midterms. They failed. We've stopped Donald Trump from being able to federal.
I didn't even get to respond to that point. I completely forgot. Who's doing the gerrymandering again? I forgot. Because, I'm sorry, I got to go off on a tear on this one, so just grant me this one, please. So, listen to how ridiculous this bullshit is that he's trying to feed everybody. Republicans tried to gerrymander the gerrymander effort to stop the fair elections this midterm. No, they're trying to fix the already gerrymandered state lines in Texas. And what did you do? You used that as an excuse to, well, we'll just gerrymander every blue state. Sorry, a little bit different. Besides which, you guys have already gerrymandered all of your states to the point that they look like freaking 5-year-olds doodling on a wall with a crayon. But yeah, we fought back and we passed new what the hell you call those? New district lines in blue states to fight back on their attempt to destroy the free results of the election that were going to be fair and you fucking blowhard. The guy is such a fucking snake. Just like Raskin, just like Schiff, just like Goldman talking about he's too stupid to know, like, you know, what the actual... Man, what is going on with OBS today, man? Am I doing something to piss somebody off, or is there something else going on here? Hold on. Oh, you know what? It might be something else. Well, here, let me keep playing this, and hopefully we don't get too many other...
Federalize the National Guard, which we believe was probably part of some toxic attempt to unleash troops on American cities all across the nation and intimidate people from voting. And we're going to stop him from nationalizing the election. This is going to be a free and fair election. It's going to be conducted like every other election, where states and localities have the ability to administer the laws.
Except for,
Leader Jeffries, you recently stated that requiring proof of citizenship to vote in elections is voter suppression. Can you explain how requiring proof of ID is voter suppression?
One of the most important
That's
ones.
not a statement that I ever made.
You sure about that?
Then you should have brought the SAVE Act, which is a voter suppression bill that we strongly oppose to the floor.
That 95% of Republicans, but also 71% of Democrats like this idea. So why do you not?
It's Jim Crow 2.0, and I called it Jim Crow 2.0, and the right wing went nuts all over the internet. That's because they know it's true. What they're trying to do here is the same thing that was done in the South for decades to prevent people of color from voting. For instance, if you change, you're a woman who got married and changed your last name, you won't be able to show ID and you'll be discriminated against. If you can't find a birth certificate or a proper ID, you'll be discriminated against. This is vicious and nasty. And I said to our Republican colleagues, it will not pass the Senate. You will not get a single Democratic vote in the Senate. We're not reviving Jim Crow all over the country. And when the American people hear what exactly it is doing and what its intent is doing, they're going to be against it as well.
By asking ID to vote, you're reviving Jim Crow. I'll go ahead and skip the next one because we've spent enough time on this. The point is obvious at this point. This is lunacy. It really is. It's just more and more bullshit that they use to whip up their base into a frenzy and make them think that, oh yeah, they're going to steal elections by gerrymandering, Democrat tactic, by federalizing elections, Democrat tactic, and they're going to force voter ID. That's not a Democrat tactic, obviously, but I'll tell you what is, trying to make sure that enough illegals can vote and use the excuse that illegals don't have the ability to vote. Maybe not technically on paper, but here's the problem, Chucky boy. There's a big problem with that. As a matter of fact, it's a freaking massive problem. There's a little thing you guys love so much. Let me give you a little hint. It starts with the words sanctuary and city. And anyway, the point is that when you have those kind of laws in place, and by the way, like, you know, it's not even a secret. They openly say out loud that, yeah, we want undocumented migrants to be able to vote in local elections, since it's something that affects them too. It's like, okay, well, if they didn't like the effects of it, they could leave and go back to their home country. That would be option number one. But option number two, okay, what does that have to do with allowing them to vote in federal elections? Well, they can't do that. Well, they can do that in your state. And if they can do that in your state, that means that they're on the voter rolls. Do you even distinguish? Do you have anything that prevents that from happening? Do you even care? No, of course not. The same reason why when COVID was going on, you demanded the most ridiculously stupid policies for voting, and well, we need to make sure that everyone is able to vote when they're not. And like I was saying before, the idea that everyone should be able to vote is ridiculous. If you don't know a damn thing about the candidates, if you know nothing about the policy, if you know nothing about anything that's happening in the country, if you're not following current events, then what the hell is it that gives you the right to vote who's going to be in charge of these extremely important, highly consequential positions that are going to end up potentially deciding how much money we end up doling out to China, how much money ends up, being sent to Somali fraudsters that ends up in Al-Shabaab. I mean, they talk about the importance of the democratic process and how this country is a democracy, and it's like, and yet you don't believe at all in democracy. You believe in mob rule. You believe, I guess, pure democracy would be mob rule, but you don't believe in the concept of in the principle of a democratic republic that the whole freaking country was founded on. You don't understand the words that maybe you understand the words you're using, but you use them incorrectly all the time on purpose to confuse people into believing this horse shit that is every Democrat talking point I ever see is just more ratcheting up, more and more anger, more and more pissed off, more and more. That's what's culminating in Minnesota right now. But it's just when you see the game, you hear the arguments, you hear all the insanely freaking radicalized perspective that keeps coming out time after time after time. It reaches a point where it's just like, how much more can you go? What more is it that you need to satiate this insane? I guess there's not much. There's very little, I guess, that you could like possibly ever do to make these people happy. Oh yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that's just it. Just really gets under my skin when once again I hear nothing but lies and lies and lies and mistruths and half truths and misdirection and the myriad of ways that they end up confusing a bunch of people and making them think that which I'm not letting people off the hook on this. It's up to them to look into subjects that they are actually going to be voting on. But you know people don't know this, and a lot of people don't know this, and it's something that people have forgotten in time. But the original movement for feminism, the original suffrages movement, was not very popular among women in its original form, and the reason was because the the idea that someone could vote was originally something that was uh, acquired alongside the expectation that you would be responsible for a certain amount of duties. Say, first of all, you would sign up for selective service, which every male still has to do in this country for um, the purposes. And if they don't want to get arrested, actually, kind of funny story. I was in between addresses at the time when my paperwork got sent, and I didn't get it on time, and then all of a sudden I get this letter from the United States government saying I have 1 month for them to receive um, my paperwork for selective service, or I will be in contempt, and there will be a warrant issued from. I was like, holy shit! Yeah, I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to. I really didn't. I didn't get the first one. Please don't arrest me. I even sent a letter with it and saying, I'm so sorry about this. Don't come after me, please. But it's like I had to do it because that's what you have to do as a man when you turn 18. If you're a male in this country, that's how if there is a draft, God forbid, but if there is a draft, that's where the names come for getting people to be drafted to the military and potentially fighting in a war that ends up happening when the number of men needed turns out to be far more than expected. Um, that hasn't been an issue in a long time, and I think you can kind of see why when it comes to the capabilities of the United States military, even especially as these last years. Mm, man. So anyway, yeah, it's just like so. Anyway, the point I was getting at was that used to be a requirement. There also used to be mandatory bucket duty. What does that mean? That means you had to register with the fire department and serve as a volunteer firefighter for X amount of time as well. Once you did all those things, you were also guaranteed the right to vote. The reason the suffragette movement didn't want the right to vote was because it was assumed at the time that in order for them to also get the vote, they would also need to do these things that men were required to do, and both men and women were like, no, there's no way we can't be expected to be doing. So rules were bent and changed to be able to allow them to vote without having to do anything of the required service that's offered to what? Anyway, they finally were okay, but once again, that kind of just lowers the threshold. It lowers the engagement. It lowers the meaning. It lowers the value. And I don't think that the only cases that are weird that I think an exception should easily be made is when you're an American citizen, you're going to be returning home, but you just happen to be in a different country on a vacation or something like that. It really pohad. Wait, what was I quoting at that one? I think it was Aquatine Hunger Force. I was trying to go for it, but I don't remember what the setup was. Anyway, yeah, the I can't believe how insane the right to vote has become, and it's been presented in this way. It's like every American citizen should have the right to vote for their. Okay, well, what if once again you don't know anything about you could have gone through the whole election cycle and not watched one politically relatable show. And by the way, when it comes to shows that are beneficial, I would really, I almost feel kind of bad for the guy, not really Beavis and Butthead, almost, but where were they going with this? Oh yeah, the Spectre guy. That was how I ended up. Let me see, Operation Assistance. Anyway, so yeah, where do we go from here? Where is it that this is attempted to be heading? Because there's obviously something that is a much higher goal in mind. And once again, as I've said before, I'll say it again right now. The Democrats are not happy because they're not in power. They are spoiled brats who have gotten away with any and all tactics necessary to win the elections that they want to win so many goddamn times. It's really just an amazing turn of events when you get out and you don't have to freaking be on any delusion that like your service should be rewarded with service. Your abilities should be reflected by what you accomplish. And sure as hell, anybody that is someone to be the sole predator in the country who's going to strip everyone of all their rights, and he hates illegal. He wants to deport illegals. He doesn't. I don't think he hates him. He even said that early on until it was something that's like, yeah, I'm getting tired of putting this message out. It's just an effort to. But anyway, it's just it gets me freaking so frustrated to no end. So that's been it's been the word around the professional Democrat cheerleading part of the media, and it's really obviously been something that is like, and I don't know how much of it's real, how much of it there was a bunch of bad things to him. Anyway, so I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out what it was that would be draining on the online connection to make it so unstable and start fluctuating all over the place. But I think there really isn't. Well, I guess I'll move on to the next one because this is actually something that kind of fell in my lap very early this morning, and I wasn't really expecting to talk about Modesto and the sort of greater Modesto area there. But anyway, this is well, we'll put it this way. This is really just the kind of thing that people that are deranged as hell and obsessed with power and narcissistic and sort of by any means necessary mindset that and all the ends justify the means as long as we win. But as opposed to the map that what's his name was discussing. Hmm. Anyway, yeah. So this is what's been going on in Minnesota, and let me kind of run down a little short recap of everything that happened in the last month or so. Tim Walz essentially had to forfeit his stupid campaign. So anyway, they're trying to go through all that, and then meanwhile, when they're wandering around through the places that have the most illegal immigration, and a lot of them aren't going to get upset about that. And in fact, most of them won't be upset about that because already have the grape tree. As a matter of fact, it's you. Well, there we go. So what is it that they do? What's their brilliant plan to go along with this and to go in front of cameras and propose everything that the Republicans are doing is just like Jim Crow. Everything is just like the evil, horrible tactics you see in Ghost Warrior 3. But anyway, let me pull the video up because this is something that I was not expecting, and I don't know if anybody was expecting this because, quite honestly, this seems to be something that is for a totally unrelated story, from what he explains anyway. But James O'Keefe, who I respect the hell out of, honestly, if you ever have seen James O'Keefe's work, you probably understand why. And if you haven't, I would say just go look at. You could really look at just about any of his major stories and writings, but and in this particular video, no, it's not that. It's it's just like we get that. Yeah, okay. You want to have the second kind. Anyway, sorry. So James O'Keefe is talking about how he had a story he was doing, and it was in Minnesota. It wasn't necessarily, as far as he seems to imply, it wasn't actually in Minneapolis itself. But when they had their rental vehicle, they were kind of driving around, familiarizing themselves with the areas around the state. They were engaged on a level trying to help out and maybe lend a little bit of. Anyway, I think it has to speak for itself. And as a matter of fact, considering that this is going to be sort of, like I said, kind of a set the table episode, let's go ahead and put this on. There's two clips, but I think what I'll do is we'll put the first one on because they're fairly long, but we'll uh, kind of just let these roll because the information here is so dark and so ominous, and it gives you the perfect idea of what it is that what happens when the Democrat narrative, number one, is taken seriously as hell by everybody that's talking about it. When you describe administrative officials, and even the president of the United States, as a freaking as a technician, which I am, but anyway, this is not. They just don't have. Sorry, nobody would trust them for this, but so James O'Keefe's going in, and he'll explain what happens. But the way that the people in Minnesota are acting right now, the measures that they're taking, the supposed partner that they have, um, hmm, hmm, um, can't remember who the hell's knocking on the door. Oh, maybe he's knocking at the door. Where's my where's that folder? Oh, there we go. Okay. Um. Oh, now it got buried. Hold on. Come on. There we go. There it is. Oh no, that's the wrong folder. That's the Dallas folder. Oh, by the way, there will be a. It's time for Return of the Suck this week because I didn't have time to get it ready for this one, which is probably good because I'll need it next one. Um, but yeah, Brian Stelter has been popping up a lot lately and offering his unsolicited advice, and by unsolicited I mean nobody cares. But we do care when Humpty Dumpty comes out and decides I'm going to make a profound statement about this topic on this impeccable news station called CNN. It's brilliant. It's so brilliant they fired me. They fired Don Lemon too. That's also part of the story, not in this particular clip, mind you, but this is part of the story, and it will be coming up in the next part. But actually, James O'Keefe was in part looking at some of the church protest situations, but what do you see? Wow. Okay. And then I get okay. Hold on. Okay. Oh yeah, that's right. There was one more voice in that. That was in the hearing though, so I can say that for later. I don't think. Yeah, I don't remember the time even I last streamed. It was well, not the first time I streamed in general, but it's the first time I streamed on this. Um, it was a subject that I was like, man, this is getting crazy. But like, I never would have guessed how far this would go because, man, oh man, have they really like? Well, I'll hold off on this part until we get into it. But this gives a great overview. of exactly what it is. Oh yeah, no, I saved it under his name, James O'Keefe. I thought I saw it right there. Ah, here it is. Here it is. Okay, all right. Now, so this is the first part, and this is just listen to what James O'Keefe has. Just listen to his experiences. He went to Minnesota. Like I said, he was covering something totally different. It wasn't about ICE and the illegals that they were apprehending in the state. I don't remember what he might say it in the clip. It might have been from something else, but he describes what they were doing there, or what they were going to be doing there. But you see what I mean in just a second, because this shit right here, anybody wants to make the argument that Tim Walz and Jacob Fry know exactly what they're doing and they're putting the power within the communities in their state to do what needs to be done to make sure that all citizens who come to this country, not illegal immigrants, all of them have to fly down. Can I open? Oh yeah, okay, here we go. So let me turn up just a second, and then we'll get that rolling. Geez. Oh, and I keep going back down to the accidental one. That's a dumb little thing. Anyway. What is it? Swear I just saw it. Where is it? Okay, but this folder. Oh, I need to start doing that a little bit better. If I put the folder up front, then it'll be 100% perfect on that. Most searches after that. Okay, here we go. Now, oh, by the way, when it comes to the church incident, this is the last thing I'll say, by the way, and all the arrests, there was obviously bail that was set, and I don't know what's going to become of those, but you know, without the barrel, it could never help anybody. So, and I mean the barrel, it could never. Anyway, so this is James O'Keefe's experience in Minnesota and the incredible hospitality he found there. It's so it's such a welcoming place. So, hi, Lord. Yeah, there is. Okay. All right, here we go. Oh, and by the way, of course, we're gonna. Well, I'll just say it in just a second because it's kind of obligatory at this point. That we have, anytime Megan pops up, we have to have the my obligatory. I'm going to have sex with Megan Kelly joke, but I can't think of anything witty other than you know. Come on, Megan, let's go. Come on. So I'll just leave it at that, and we'll get to the. I'm sorry. She's hot. Okay, come on, leave me alone. Anyway, so here's Jay. Volume. Don't forget that this time. We get it this time.
actually in Minnesota for a different reason on Friday and Saturday morning, and I was in undercover journalism, doing some undercover journalism, and I was there when the shots were fired. Just absolute coincidence. So I walked over to the location in what appeared to be like the suburbs of Minnesota, a relatively nice neighborhood. People need to understand that what's so shocking to me is that this is not like a bad neighborhood. This is just a suburban place. And this is before the autonomous zone was formed. I don't know, about 11, 12 a.m. I was
By the way, real quick, so I can give context real quick. They're restarting the Chaz, folks. They're restarting the Chaz, the Chop, whatever the fuck they're gonna call it this time. They're restarting it because it went so well the first time, and this time where would be better than Minnesota? Ground zero for the George Floyd riots, and now ground zero for Operation Resist ICE. And so it's perfect place for something as retarded as the freaking roadblocks and stupid and stupid talking points that are just who cares? They never have anything in. What's wrong with the anyway? Okay, let's go.
Walking, we parked our vehicle, got out of our vehicle. We did have undercover people in the mob. But what was striking to me is right when I parked my vehicle, as soon as I got out, it's negative 12 degrees, so every part of your skin is completely covered. They can't identify you. Immediately, 5 women who are white began interrogating me and asking me who I am and what my identity is. I've never experienced anything quite like this. I actually told them I was press. And they proceed. It was almost like they were going to do a citizen's arrest on me unless I identified myself, showed them my ID. So I told them, you know, I'm
James, forgive me.
Yeah.
You guys have given us a couple of videos exclusive to you. People can check them out at your website. So we'll play a couple of them as you tell the story.
Check this out, by the way.
There is one of the
he's
moment
not lying.
I think you're
He's
referring to where they're demanding you
well.
show your press badge in SOT 9A. Here it is.
Yeah, I want to see your work on the fucking phone.
Look at this. Look at this.
Here's my press badge.
If it's real, just hand it to her.
Yeah, no, it's right here.
Go give it back.
These guys are not press. I looked up okay.
Now, what was it that was being always used as a descriptor of Nazi Germany all the time? By the way, like we want to see your papers, we want to see your name tag, we want to see all this information. We need to see it. Well, who are you? What are you doing here? Well, who was it that did that? The Nazis and who are the bad guys? The federal government wanted to see people's papers, and they were just pulling random people off the street. And what do we see here? These must be those evil right-wingers. I heard. Oh wait, no, they're not. They're anti-ICE radical lunatics, and they are doing exactly what they were so hysterical about. Oh, how dare anyone, even Joe Rogan. Has it really come to this in America? Show me your papers, like you're sort of Gestapo. Yeah, it has. It has on the left. It certainly has on the left. I don't know about on the right, but on the left it definitely has. They're doing it to everybody. They even tried to do it to Don Lemon for a second until some dumb broad came over and was like, no, it's all right. He's one of us. He's just as stupid. Anyway, let's keep watching the tactics of the Gestapo in action.
It's from Portugal. They're not from Portugal. And none of their work is political at all.
Yeah, they are idiots. Yeah.
So
keep going, James.
So we'll tell the story about a sequence. But what happened there is they started yelling shame, shame, shame.
I'm sorry. I hate this shit. This is one of those things that gets under my nerves every time. There is something incredibly cringy and just like, I don't know, when you have to form a mob and shout shame, like, that's why it's just, I can't even really, I know I have to at this point because they literally are a violent mob. But when you're a violent mob LARPing as a bunch of fucking vigilante justice agents, like, has your life ever had meaning? Is there anything in your life that's ever had any meaning, or are you really as pathetic as you seem? Because I don't see any sort of proof to suggest otherwise. Like there's not much middle ground in this situation. Anyway, and you'll get to see the depths of it. Not in this really right away, but anyway, keep going.
And I mean, again, this is not yet even an autonomous zone. I'm somewhere a mile away from the shooting. They followed us to our car. They started throwing things at us. Now remember, negative 12 degrees, a bottle of water will freeze in like 20, 30 seconds. And it's a weapon. And they started throwing objects at me and my security guard. In fact, they actually patted my security guard down. They are the authority. I've never experienced anything like this. I mean, if you have a gun, what are you going to do, fire it at them? I mean, that's not going to work. So they confiscated the weapon off of my Marine security detail, followed us to our...
Wait, a gun?
Well, he left his gun in the car, but he had like a knife or something on him, and they confiscated, they patted him down like they're the police. Now, the police in Minnesota have left. The police have left this area completely. So you're completely on your own. And I'm shaken. Megan, you had me on to talk about my film Line in the Sand. I've ambushed the cartel. They run away from me.
If you haven't seen that, by the way, and this is what's so wild, he follows a route that illegal migrants were following during the last administration, and kind of embeds himself with them. And when they kind of recognize what he's doing, they do just get out of there. And members of the administration, when they find out what he's doing, they try to just get out of there. Except for the guy who tried to lock them in the building and not let them out, and like called the cops and tried to say that he was a victim and blah blah blah. But yeah, this is just like, how brazen can you be and how entitled can you be? Once again, it's the most ignorant morons in the world that, like, we're not getting what we want, so we're going to throw a temper tantrum and mob and destroy a bunch of stuff. Like, that's what we're dealing with, only on a much more dangerous level. But
they don't like the cameras. These people will kill you. I've never quite experienced, like, I guess I would call it communism up close. Like, I've never experienced anything like this. So we go to the car, and they start throwing projectiles at us. Rocks, ice bottles, what appeared to be a knife. Well, I'm still going through all the footage. I'm wearing a bulletproof vest. You saw it in the video. It was terrifying. And we have a couple clips we've given you, but I've never. I'm honestly a little bit shaken. I wouldn't say I'm scared, but I'm shaken. And I guess we'll unpack all this. But what struck me is how organized these people are. Every car.
Hold the thought on the organization, because I do want to get into that. Let me show the audience a little bit of what you were subjected to. Let's hear slot 10A and 10B together.
This is just
the crowd's following James. Now you can see the projectile hit James in the back. Green friend.
They're everywhere. Shut the fucking doors. Shut the doors.
Watch this. Boom.
Shut the fucking doors.
Boom.
We're fucking pressed. We're pressed.
You know what the First
Amendment is? Yes or no?
They don't.
They threw a frozen ice brick at the car. Take off your vest. I'm getting too sleep.
Yeah, it's pretty terrifying, and the reason why is because there's no one there to help. Like, there's no police. The police have stood down. I mean, you tell them they're pressed, and we have more footage, they'll kill you. They don't care. Anybody who's not them is their enemy. If you are a journalist, you're a Fed. And I was trying to reason with them, Megan. I was trying to, talk to them rationally. Like, I'm not here.
That's another problem, by the way. If you try to talk to them rationally, you might as well be speaking a different language. They're not interested in that. It's devolved to a point where this is just an angry mob that is trying to get as much attention as possible to the fact that, hey, we're destroying everything and you can't do anything about it. And we could. And if there was ever maybe this could be a situation where the only thing I can think of, and it kind of makes sense in this way, and if this is what it takes, and I guess I feel bad for the people, because you got to imagine there are people there that did vote for Trump. There are people there that aren't part of this, that don't want anything to do with this, and they're probably, you know, scared to death every day, huddled in their homes because this shit is all over on the street. And why? Because they love the fucking illegal immigrants so much. Because they want to make sure that no illegal immigrants are deported. Even the ones that have committed horrendous fucking crimes. And then they bitch and moan and try to stir up all this shit about the Epstein files. I said this before and I'll say it again. The drug cartels and what was allowed to happen in the last administration was responsible for more child sex trafficking than Jeffrey Epstein and his little band ever could have hoped to achieve. Yet they don't care. They've scoffed at that statement before. Because I've put that comment down on several different forums and different YouTube videos, on posts on Twitch, not Twitch, obviously, Twitter/X. There we go. You know, I've put that statement. Some lefties laugh like, no, Epstein was a huge. It's like, okay, where's the proof of it? Because we have pretty obvious proof that, you know, there was even the New York Times covered a child labor trafficking situation where, like, 8 to 12-year-old girls were working in a factory in midnight and some freaking state in the middle of the winter in snow where, like, you know, they're around heavy, loud machinery all night, and then they have to get up the next morning and they're required to be in school. So it's like, and you fuckers are gonna actually try to go after someone who, once again, if there's ever any evidence for people who actually were a part of Jeffrey Epstein's enterprise, Trump kind of has passed the smell test over and over again, and probably has done more than that to give you the impression there's no mass band of people. Once again, the way they describe it, just like the way they describe voter ID in SAVE Act, just like they describe the ending of Roe v. Wade, just like, you know, anytime it's this situation where they're proven wrong by a court or by a decision by a president, they love evoking terms that are going to have a lot of powerful emotion behind them and have nothing rational to be attempting to. Oh, never mind. Actually, I was thinking of something else. There's a different situation. The point is, the idea that, once again, you're doing this for some benevolent reason, and once again, Jacob Fry, little freaking femboy, and fat ass Tim Limp-Wrist Walls can say all they like about how these Nazi Gestapo like evil federal agents are coming in and snatching people off the streets. You know why they are in unmarked vans, and you know, they're not all in unmarked vans, but you know why some of them come with unmarked vans, and why they cover their faces? Because at nut jobs like these people, who have no problem whatsoever, there's even further proof of that in just the next couple of seconds. So let's get on with that.
I'm not taking a position for or against ICE. I'm a reporter. They said they'll kill me. So that was kind of perhaps a glimpse into the future, I suppose, of what we're up against. There's more to the story here. I can tell you what happened next. We try to go back to our hotel, Megan. We're staying downtown, and the person at the hotel signals to one of them, and we then realize that we're in danger. We have to leave our hotel, so we go to a second hotel, and we got someone.
What do you mean he signaled? He told them that you were staying there?
Yeah. These people have spotters everywhere. They have spotters in every street corner. They have people working at the hotels. They somehow got our license plate, rental car. My driver got a text message, a death threat. from a burner number
Classy,
on his phone, which
yeah, you posted it.
I did post that, the death threat, yes.
It reads, "We know you're in Minneapolis. You're with O'Keefe and his crew of Nazis. You're in a white Ford license plate," and then you blocked it out, "from Florida. You have 1 hour to leave or you're..."
O'Keefe and his crew of Nazis. Here's your vehicle, here's your license plate, you have 1 hour to leave or you're dead. Who are the good guys again and who are the bad guys? Who are the ones that are intimidating and using Nazi-like and Gestapo-like tactics? Call me crazy. I don't remember hearing about Jews during the Holocaust throwing frozen water bottles and attacking groups of Nazis and Gestapo in a resistance movement because they couldn't, because they're being actually, oppressed, not like fake oppressed, like you guys keep constantly bitching and moaning and crying and complaining about, because they're removing people who are illegally in the country and are responsible for some of the most heinous shit that's been going on in the country for the last fucking 5 years. Nah. No sympathy for these people. I don't care if it's out of ignorance. I don't care if it's out of stupidity. I don't care what it's out of anymore. It's some stupid sense of ridiculous morality that only makes sense to a lunatic liberal that has been brainwashed by BS Now or CNN or any other absolutely completely irresponsible news network. No more excuses for people like this, and sure as hell no more. I mean, this person, whoever this is, should absolutely be found out, prosecuted, put in prison, and left to sit there for a good long while. That's the other thing about these people too. Not one of them, I almost guarantee not one of these people has ever been in any way, shape, or form that would make you think that they would be behaving like this. They have never been through hardship. They've never been through any kind of serious, physically dangerous situation. They've never gone through anything like persecution, not real persecution, not like they'll scoff at the Afrikaner farmers who are being like literally tortured and murdered in their homes by an insane anti-white government that, or not government, anti-white group of people that disagree with the government for not, I guess, killing the people who instituted apartheid, even though it's not the same people. But, that's just, that. No, white people aren't being persecuted. What are you talking about? That's why they scoff at them being granted asylum status in the United States and they can escape South Africa, where they are in fear for not even probably for their own lives, for the lives of their children, and probably some of the lives of some of their more unfortunate people that work at these farms that are employed there. But no, kill the poor, kill the farmer. That's not any evidence of anything. And this isn't evidence of anything except for an attempt to fight back against the tyranny of Donald Trump and his administration of evil Nazis. The level of delusion here, it's so absolutely out of control. This is beyond any kind of rational, realistic way of thinking about the situation. It's not just overreaction. It's not just overkill. It's not just inappropriate force. This is. I mean, you want to label this? I'll put it this way. They want to get pissed at Kristi Noem for calling it domestic terrorism. I'm sorry. What does this look like? Does this kind of resemble what you might think of as domestic terrorism? It sure as fuck does to me.
Dead. That was to your driver?
Yeah, that was not to my cell phone. That was to the driver of the vehicle who rented the car. We go to a second hotel in a town called Wayzata, Minnesota, which is kind of a rich suburban town on the lake where they do ice fishing. And a guy walks in, black block, looks like Antifa. He just stares at me as I'm checking into the hotel. And then I then realize I can't actually lose these people. I have to, like, leave the state of Minnesota. Do we drive to Chicago? Like, what are we going to do? And my team was honestly pretty scared. And that's when I went to the parking garage and posted a video of me reading the death threat as we then proceed to go to our third location and try to just extract my team out of there because they feel like their lives are in danger.
Yeah, and that your security team gets to the point where they realize they cannot keep you safe.
Correct.
And it's not just you. It's not just you, James. There was an extraordinary piece of tape out of Minneapolis. This is posted on the New York Post, but we found it on X originally, where anti-ICE protesters violently swarmed a Minneapolis hotel. They're big on swarming the hotels where they think press like you or ICE or Border Patrol are staying.
It looks now like
they believe federal officers were staying there.
Because there's obviously
they began hurling items,
people in the
quoting here from the New
hotels
York Post, at people inside, smashing in windows, graffitiing F-U-C-K ICE across the building's facade on Sunday. The large mob descended on the Home 2 Suites by Hilton Hotel last Sunday. They shoved and hurled objects at a Minneapolis Police Department officer and others just inside the hotel's lobby and attempted to push their way in. We're showing some video of it now, forcing those inside to use 2 large vending machines to physically block the rowdy demonstrators. We're all locals. It's all locals, one man shouted as he tried to ward off the protesters. And then we see this piece of tape with a federal agent who's been guarding the hotel come out and scream, not scream, but like yell with the people at the people standing there.
He was eventually joined by
Where
one of his,
is the local PD? Let's listen to it. SOT 12.
Is everyone pressed?
Now, bear in mind, real quick, I just want to set the context for this because maybe not everybody's aware of everything that was going on in this situation. This guy has just been assaulted by a mob. There's other agents that are still in the hotel there, but you can see the state of the building. It's been just ran through like a hurricane went through it. This guy's got his nose busted, his mouth busted, where he's bleeding out of both. He's got his weapon now and was able to chase the pieces of shit away, but and he's just trying to confirm that everyone's pressed. And one question he has on his mind, and it's one question that I would really love an answer to as well. But if the answer is more bullshit like, our job isn't to uphold federal law, you're right. It's not. But it is to, make sure that there's safe and orderly streets on the city, in your city. And when federal agents are being assaulted, having the shit beat out of them, and there's not an officer in sight, you can't get an officer on call, and you probably can't get an officer literally to save your fucking life if you're a federal agent, that is where they have some fucking responsibility. I don't blame the freaking police, not all of them. I know there's some of them in there that are sympathetic to this horse shit, but I'm sure there's a lot of them that really can't stand the fact that that asshole has told them, no, stand down, we're not going to get involved in this. And meanwhile, watch federal law enforcement agents get the shit kicked out of them and are powerless to do anything about it because Jacob Fry will go after them in court and go after them for their job and make sure they can't feed their family if they assist ICE in getting the violent mob that he's stirred up off their back. That's what we're talking about here. That's the kind of people, that's the caliber of the Democrat mayor in America at this point, everybody. That's what we're talking about.
We're all members of the press. We're all press here. Okay.
And this isn't even now, actually.
Oh my God. Are you okay?
I'm fine.
He's not. He is
I'm
not.
fine.
He's all right. He's all right.
Where's the local PD? That's my question for the press.
Okay.
Where is the local PD?
That's great. Okay.
What's your message to the local PD, sir?
No.
Okay.
Well, the mayor.
very chaotic.
Sir, while you're giving messages, what would your message to the protesters that want you out be?
Press conference.
As long as you're getting comment.
You don't want to give a bunch of statements.
This guy is bloodied from the nose and the mouth, James, and asking, basically, where the hell's the backup? This is a federal agent.
Yeah, I mean, there's no incentive. The incentives are not aligned. You can't hold them accountable. You can't defend yourself. You can't shoot back. You can't fight back.
Yeah, Megan, anytime feel free to call me after the show and whatever. Anyway, yeah, it's just, it really is just amazing to see what has become of this situation. And really, when and how does it end? Because for all the talks that, Tom Homan's going to be, and, bear in mind, while all this is going on, ICE is still able to extract illegals out of this state, so they're not really accomplishing their intended goal. They're just destroying people's lives and hurting a ton of people and harassing and intimidating and scaring off a bunch of other people. I mean, I've never. It's complicated as hell because there's without a doubt good people in that state that don't deserve this. But what do you do? What do you do when you say, like, what, anybody that wants to leave will assist you in leaving? Who knows how many people that is, and then who knows who you're helping? You can't tell the difference between these assholes and somebody who actually is genuinely scared and afraid for their life and doesn't know what's going to happen next in the city. But all I can say at this point is that it's like, is this what they wanted? It seems like it. It seems like this is what they wanted, because it seems like every step of the way they've blamed ICE, they've blamed Trump, they've blamed everyone in the federal government, and meanwhile they've allowed their citizens to do this. And not once have they ever attempted to cool the temperature down with them or anything like that. It's a crock of shit. And everybody that's enabled this shit, like, if there's any point for actual investigators from DOJ, FBI, whoever, to come in and find out who's been involved. They've obviously been in very close communication through Signal and through all different channels. This is highly coordinated, obviously. There's the point they go on to mention that this is obviously not just the work of one wealthy Democrat donor. There's got to be several NGOs involved in funding this shit. So I can only hope that at some point when there's an opening for some kind of sane, rational person to decide enough's enough. We need to end this, and we need to cooperate with the federal government on this. We're not gonna do any of the deportations or anything, but we'll hand over violent criminals to ICE. That's fine. Once it returns to some degree of sanity, at least for that much, that we get some kind of help from the government to, and I don't even live in Minnesota, but I mean, like, something, because something has to be done about this. And I know that this is the other part of the story we'll be going over next time, because that's it for today here. But there's a guy who is an Antifa. He's so hardcore. He has a sweatshirt on that says "I am Antifa," and he's obviously so proud of it. Very big difference in his demeanor in that video versus other appearances he's made. But I'll leave that as a cliffhanger. But yeah, it's Antifa. It's NGOs that support this. I'm sure it's funded by a number of our enemies in foreign countries, and of course, a large portion of cover run by the Democrat Party. And it's like, so here's ultimately the point that I'll go and conclude this video on. We're only halfway through this, and this is what I'm talking about when I say, like, if you can't understand the idea that if the Democrat, whether you're a Republican or not, whether you're a independent or not, if it's still confusing to you about the idea of what will happen when Dems take back power of the House and the Senate, God forbid, does this give you an image of a little bit of a concern? Why? Because you remember in the last term, you remember when George Floyd happened. That was in the second half of Trump's first term, and it was in the middle of COVID when everybody else was supposed to be locked down. But if you're going out to fight for your rights, then of course you don't have to worry about the mandates. You can go out. But if you have a small business, then no, absolutely not. And once again, is another just the absolute ridiculous levels of hypocrisy that are just gushing from the Democrat Party are like nothing I've ever seen. And that party needs to be considerably reformed to a large enough degree that it's healthily and responsibly in opposition to its other party. And there's some healthy tension between the Democrats and Republicans, but shit like this needs to be condemned by both sides, no questions asked. And that should be easy for anyone to do. And the fact that it's not easy for the left to do, that speaks volumes more than anything else ever could. So, if you don't want to give your vote to a Republican, don't give your vote. But if you in any way are feeling unease about situations like this and you want them to stop, just stay away from the Democrat Party for a while. Let the Republicans handle things. They obviously are never going to do much to push through legislation. You're not going to have anything that's going to be radical that gets through. There's too many Republicans who just pussyfoot around. They're not going to pass anything. Donald Trump is bullish, but yeah, he'll get a lot of good things done for people that will be, noticed by people for quite a while. And the tax bill that has been finally going into effect now, which, by the way, I don't know about you, but I haven't been seeing any prices going up anywhere, and I've seen some prices on some things have remained pretty stagnant, but like as far as the major things that I need, groceries, gas, things like that, I haven't seen them go up. Maybe some of them stay the same, but I haven't seen anything go up. So this absolute three-alarm fire that's coming from Democrats about this massive affordability crisis. I guess maybe if you're looking for a home, then maybe that's true. But once again, this is a holdover from the last administration, and it's also because of the fact that now we have about 20 million more people living here all of a sudden, and they have nowhere to go. So they'll just stuff them into empty houses. And then, well, yeah, of course, prices in the area go up. And then you have neighborhoods that are plagued by, this kind of level of violence, and they have groups of people that are associated with no one but illegal immigrants, a whole neighborhood filled with a bunch of people that are shady and untrustworthy, and then that drives down the interest in those neighborhoods. Nobody wants to live there. And so then all the houses, it funnels all the attention into areas where it's much safer, and then the houses go in that neighborhood, those neighborhoods, they go skyrocketing. It's all self-inflicted wounds for the most part, and as Donald Trump looks for ways to fix it, they look for more ways to undermine him every step of the way. And once again, like, think what you want about Donald Trump, he's not the one who started this. And as far as the promise, everyone always references, he promised he was only going to go after the violent felons first, and he didn't do that. He didn't do that to the extent that the blue mayors decided, no, we're not going to let him into the jails. Which, by the way, they used it, once again, that sneaky wordplay. They'll hold someone who's convicted of murder or rape, who's in prison already and serving a very long sentence, they'll hand them over. But not people who are in jail who have there was just another accident involving a semi-truck that hit a group of 20 men in an Amish community. Their van was struck by an illegal who driving a semi-truck who didn't know, once again, how to read English, so he couldn't read the street signs, and he merged into the left oncoming lane and had a head-on collision with a group of Amish guys, killed one of them and seriously wounded the rest. You know, that is, and those people should be safe and sound in their homes right now, all of them. And it's just like, once again, you have to just put aside the ideology for just 1 minute. Forget the talking points and look at the reality. Does this sound like family men and hard-working, super devoted, tax-paying people who just happen to be undocumented, and they're not going to, no, they're going to mooch off of unemployment. They're going to mooch off of, not unemployment. They're going to mooch off of welfare. They're going to mooch off of food stamps. They're going to mooch off of Social Security and disabilities. They're going to mooch off of health insurance that's going to be provided for free. And the Democrats want more and more and more. And now they want them voting, which is what this whole thing has been about all along. So, call it Jim Crow 2.0 all you want, and call them Nazis all you want. The actual reality of the situation on the ground tells a very different story, and you guys just got to see a part of it right there. So, anyway, more to come on this next time. We'll finish up this, and then there's one other subject I want to get into, which we'll discuss next time. It's more in the realm of entertainment, but we'll get there next time. So, and sorry for the unusual time, and unfortunately going really late, but like I said, kind of a strange day today for me. So, but thank you guys for watching as usual. I really appreciate it. I will see you on the next one, and so until then, take care of yourselves. Have a fantastic evening, morning, wherever you are, and I'll talk to you then. Peace.
Again, 5, 4, 3. That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today, and we will leave you with a, I can't do it. We'll do it live. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.